Picture this. Earth has existed for roughly 4.5 billion years. The earliest humans appeared about 7 million years ago, and modern humans only around 300,000 years back. Now, let that timeline sink in. Who roamed our planet before we came along? Was the Earth completely lifeless? Maybe that's what we once believed, until something called the Silurian hypothesis changed everything. In 2018, two scientists joined forces to challenge the world's understanding of Earth's past. With an idea that sounded like pure science fiction, they asked a question that shook the foundation of history itself. Could there have been another intelligent civilization before us? And if so, what if every trace of it has been erased by time? We'll explore that mystery together, right now, in this new episode of Digging History. Welcome aboard. For ages, humanity has viewed itself as the ultimate product of evolution, the top of the pyramid. But according to the Silurian hypothesis, that assumption might not be entirely true. First introduced in 2018 by scientists Adam Frank and Gavin A. Schmidt, the idea appeared in a paper titled The Silurian Hypothesis. Would it be possible to detect an industrial civilization in the geological record? Their study proposed something radical, that an advanced species could have existed long before humans, and that natural geological forces may have wiped away every sign of their presence. What began as a thought experiment quickly evolved into a serious discussion about the possibility of lost civilizations and the terrifying idea that their remains might already lie buried deep within our planet. Think about it. If humanity were to vanish today, how long before every mark of our existence disappeared too? According to scientists, just a few thousand years, our skyscrapers would crumble into dust. Our plastics would decompose. Even radioactive waste would fade into the soil. If all proof of our so-called modern world could vanish in such a short geological blink, then what chance would a civilization millions of years older have? Could we simply be the latest chapter in an ancient, repeating story? But before we go further, where does the name Silurian even come from? It refers to the Silurian period, which lasted from about 443 to 419 million years ago, the third and shortest era of the Paleozoic age. Scientists believe life thrived mostly in the oceans back then, though no evidence of intelligent beings has ever been found. Still, astrophysicist Adam Frank and climate scientist Gavin Schmidt couldn't resist giving a playful nod to the famous sci-fi series Doctor Who, where the Silurians were portrayed as an ancient, advanced reptilian species that predated humans. So, merging that pop culture idea with a geological theory of ancient life, the Silurian hypothesis was born. But Frank and Schmidt didn't stop there. Their research asked an even deeper question. If an industrial civilization once existed, would any trace of it survive? Their answer was sobering. Probably not. And here's why. Earth's natural forces, plate tectonics, erosion, fossilization, are relentless. Over time, they can destroy every shred of physical evidence, from towering cities to microscopic artifacts. So instead of hunting for fossilized skyscrapers or mythical lizard people, the scientists suggested looking elsewhere, in the chemical signatures left behind in the Earth's crust. To the skeptical mind, that sounds frustrating, like giving up the search for ruins to chase invisible chemical clues. But soon, you'll see why this approach might actually be the smartest one. Because Earth, as it turns out, is never still. Like a planet with an ever-changing mood, it constantly transforms, leaving both archaeologists and geologists in awe. Here's the truth. Today's ocean floor could be tomorrow's mountain range. And the mountains we see now might someday become fertile plains for new life. Our planet endlessly rebuilds itself through powerful geological processes, erosion, tectonic shifts, volcanic activity, and fossilization. Take plate tectonics, for instance. Earth's outer shell is divided into massive plates that drift, collide, and dive beneath one another into what scientists call subduction zones. Deep beneath your feet, the planet is constantly remodeling itself, though the movement is so slow you'd never notice. But give it millions of years, and the effect is dramatic. Entire crusts get recycled. Whole continents shift. And in the process, any remnants of ancient cities or civilizations that might have once stood there are completely erased. And here's the catch. That same slow-moving process is already at work today, quietly preparing to erase every sign of us, millions of years down the line. You doubt that? Then here's a fact. The oldest ocean floor on Earth is barely 200 million years old. Think about that. Even on land, we can watch erosion sculpting the world around us, mountains slowly crumbling, valleys being filled, and landscapes reshaped grain by grain. Wind and water never rest. They're the invisible artists, constantly rewriting Earth's surface before our very eyes. And when it isn't tectonic movement or erosion doing the job, fossilization steps in. Under immense pressure, even concrete and metal surrender to time's decay. So what survives? In the layers of rock available to us, only a fragment of Earth's entire timeline remains recorded. With these geological forces repeating themselves endlessly, it's entirely possible that whole chapters of history have been wiped away. If a sophisticated civilization truly lived here millions of years ago, their machines, roads, and towering structures would have long been pulverized and scattered across the globe, recycled back into the planet itself. So, if all tangible proof of an ancient industrial society is gone, what did Frank and Schmidt use to build their hypothesis on? Since they already knew geology erases physical evidence, they turned toward something more elusive: clues that cannot be destroyed. When direct evidence fails, indirect evidence becomes the key. That was the mindset Frank and Schmidt embraced when they published their work. If artifacts or ruins were lost forever, what about the chemical fingerprints left behind? Surely, subtle chemical signatures buried deep in the Earth's crust could serve as silent traces of past industrial activity, right? Take abnormal isotopic ratios, for example. If a pre-human civilization ever harnessed fossil fuels, their industries would have altered natural carbon balances. Levels of carbon-12 would spike compared to carbon-13, leaving a distinct chemical marker. Where could such signs be found? Buried in the sediment layers beneath our feet. And let's say those ancient beings practiced agriculture, using nitrogen-rich fertilizers to feed their crops. If so, traces of that would also linger. Unusual concentrations of nitrogen-15 in the crust might reveal evidence of synthetic fertilizer use, long before modern humans appeared. But the scientists didn't stop there. Frank and Schmidt pushed the Silurian hypothesis even further by asking a question that bordered on the unbelievable. What if that ancient civilization fought nuclear wars? Wait, what? Nuclear warfare? From a species we're not even sure existed? That sounds outrageous. But let's suspend disbelief for a second. If they truly mastered atomic energy, then faint radiological traces could still be hidden within the planet's layers. How would we detect them? Through the presence of radioactive isotopes. If these hypothetical Silurians used nuclear technology, whether for power or destruction, they would have left behind elements like plutonium-244 or iodine-129, both possessing extraordinarily long half-lives and rarely found in nature. If scientists ever uncovered those isotopes deep within ancient strata, that could be the smoking gun, the long-lost fingerprint of nuclear age intelligence. But if even that evidence never appears, Frank and Schmidt had yet another theory up their sleeves. What if that ancient society burned so much fossil fuel that it triggered global warming, just like we're seeing today? Hard to imagine, right? Yet the scientists deliberately explored every outlandish possibility they could think of, chasing even the faintest chance of identifying an advanced species that lived millions of years before us. Still, there's a catch. The same patterns could also emerge naturally. Volcanic eruptions, for example, can unleash massive amounts of carbon dioxide, skewing isotope ratios in much the same way industrial activity would. A perfect illustration of this is the Permian-Triassic extinction event around 250 million years ago. In what felt like an instant, colossal volcanic activity plunged the planet into chaos, heating the atmosphere and acidifying the oceans. So before you accuse prehistoric civilizations of causing climate collapse, remember, Earth herself has staged such catastrophes before. And as for those wild theories about nuclear wars, well, it's fun to imagine, isn't it? Picture ancient reptilian beings armored for battle, preparing to unleash their atomic fury on rival lizard empires. It's almost like the Doctor Who universe brought to life. But as fascinating as that may sound, reality might tell a different story. Nearly 2 billion years ago, a strange phenomenon occurred in the Oklo region of Gabon, West Africa, the Oklo natural nuclear reactors. This event remains the first, and so far, only, known natural nuclear reactor on Earth. Scientists and astrophysicists often point to Oklo as the ultimate rebuttal to the Silurian hypothesis. Even if traces of ancient radiation were uncovered today, they argue, such evidence could easily be explained away as the result of natural nuclear reactions, just like those that once occurred at Oklo. With every possible test and line of proof challenged, Frank and Schmidt turned to their final and perhaps boldest piece of evidence. Enter the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, or simply PETM. Roughly 56 million years ago, the planet experienced one of the most intense global warming events ever recorded. For tens of thousands of years, temperatures rose by 5 to 8 degrees Celsius, reaching a shocking 20 degrees near the North Pole. This dramatic warming persisted for over 200,000 years, pumping vast amounts of carbon into the air and triggering immense environmental upheaval. That's when the question arose: if the oldest humans appeared only around 7 million years ago, then who, or what, was responsible for that enormous surge of carbon in the atmosphere? Could it have been the same hypothetical advanced civilization imagined by the Silurian hypothesis? That was Frank and Schmidt's final play. Think about it. In today's Anthropocene era, human industry has skyrocketed carbon levels, prompting endless warnings about climate change and ecological collapse. If we can push the planet to this degree, what's to say a civilization millions of years ago didn't do the same? Could the Silurians have lived vibrant, complex lives, so advanced that their industrial activity reshaped Earth's climate? Did they trigger the PETM? Or was that event still not enough to prove their existence? You guessed it, it wasn't. After Frank and Schmidt's paper gained attention, other scientists began dismantling the ancient civilization theory behind the PETM, their first argument. Natural causes could easily explain it. The excess carbon, they said, likely came from volcanic eruptions, methane hydrate releases, or organic carbon breakdown, all entirely geological processes. Second, there's a complete lack of archaeological or fossil evidence. Yes, we know geological forces could have erased artifacts or bones, but despite countless studies, no trace of such a society has ever been found in layers matching the PETM's age. And third, the timing doesn't add up. The rate of carbon release during the PETM was far slower than the sharp, rapid emissions caused by human industry today. If an intelligent species truly caused it, the data would show similar intensity. Instead, the gradual buildup points to natural phenomena, not machines or factories. With that, the last stronghold of the Silurian hypothesis began to collapse. But even if the PETM doesn't confirm an ancient advanced race, the door isn't completely closed. There are still other intriguing signs, and they begin with the dinosaurs. For decades, the scientific world portrayed dinosaurs as nothing more than huge, mindless beasts driven by instinct alone. But what if that's not entirely true? What if some species were far smarter, maybe even organized, in ways we've only just begun to grasp? Let's start with the Stegosaurus. Massive, armored, and undeniably intimidating. Yet, it had a brain the size of a walnut. For years, that fact cemented the idea that dinosaurs were unintelligent creatures. But that notion started to crumble in 2021, thanks to one daring paleontologist, Diego Paul. His studies on the Maiasaurus species revealed something astonishing. These dinosaurs weren't just large animals roaming aimlessly. They showed patterns of memory, planning, and community behavior. For example, the Maiasaura returned to the same nesting grounds, generation after generation. That alone suggests environmental awareness and long-term memory, a deep understanding of where conditions were best to raise their young. But there's more. Paul's findings showed that Maiasaura lived in highly cooperative communities. While males guarded the nests and protected the eggs, younger dinosaurs went out to forage for food. This organized structure mirrors modern animal societies. and hints at social intelligence we once thought impossible for dinosaurs. If that level of collaboration existed millions of years ago, perhaps these creatures were far more complex than we've ever acknowledged. Still, if you think the Maiasaura were the ultimate link to the ancient civilization proposed by the Silurian hypothesis, think again. Among all known dinosaurs, one species stands out as the strongest contender for higher intelligence: the Troodon. To begin with, this small, bird-like dinosaur possessed a remarkable brain-to-body ratio, one far superior to most of its prehistoric peers. On top of that, paleontologists discovered that its binocular vision and grasping hands suggested it was capable of coordinated, intelligent activities, like strategic, cooperative hunting. And here's the kicker. Some scientists believe that if the asteroid impact 66 million years ago hadn't wiped out the dinosaurs, the Troodon species might have continued evolving into something far more advanced, perhaps even surpassing human intelligence itself. Building on that thought, paleontologist Dale Russell proposed a bold theory: the idea of the dinosauroid, a hypothetical evolution of Troodon into a humanoid-like being, one that could craft tools, design machines, and develop culture in its own prehistoric world. Wild, isn't it? Incredibly wild. Though Russell's idea remained purely speculative, it opened the door to a thrilling possibility. Could there have been other dinosaur species that reached even higher levels of organization and intelligence than the Troodon? If Troodon displayed hints of complex thought, could it have been the first true architect of civilization on Earth? Once again, the absence of physical evidence, tools, structures, or artifacts leaves us guessing. Yet, the Silurian hypothesis refuses to let that idea fade away. If such an advanced dinosaurian culture did exist, its traces might not be visible in stone or metal, but etched faintly into the geological record, whispering through isotopic signatures we've overlooked for decades. And what if the intelligent civilization we've been searching for isn't lost at all? What if it's something we've seen countless times, but never truly recognized? Over 20 years ago, Japanese biologist Toshiyuki Nakagaki conducted a simple but mind-bending experiment. He placed a slime mold and a sugar cube at opposite ends of a maze. Hours later, the mold began spreading its tendrils, exploring every path, rerouting, learning, until it finally reached the sugar. That single experiment stunned scientists worldwide. This organism without a brain demonstrated a kind of problem-solving intelligence, rivaling that of small animals. Which raises an astonishing question. Could fungi have once formed the foundation for an ancient intelligent ecosystem? If so, maybe their civilization didn't fall. It simply flourished quietly, leaving behind no ruins, no tools, only silence. And the list doesn't stop there. When we look deeper into our own history, even the pyramids raise unsettling questions. Monuments so perfect, they feel more like riddles than answers. Tradition says they were built by ancient Egyptians, but some researchers have started to challenge that idea. Consider this: the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. Now compare it to Chichen Itza in Mexico. And finally, to the Great Pyramid of Cholula, also in Mexico. All three structures were constructed thousands of years apart, supposedly by unrelated civilizations separated by vast oceans. And yet, their architectural precision, their geometric harmony, their very design, all share uncanny similarities. It makes one wonder, did an earlier, forgotten civilization inspire them all? Perhaps one that existed long before humanity ever emerged? It's a mystery that refuses to fade. The Silurian hypothesis once again challenges us to think bigger. Was there an ancient industrial civilization predating humankind? If so, what form did it take? Was it the catastrophic PETM event, the brilliant Troodon species, the intelligent fungal networks, or the master architects of the pyramids themselves? And the greatest question of all, are these civilizations truly lost to time and geological decay? Or are their chemical fingerprints still hidden beneath our feet, waiting to be found? What do you think? If you enjoyed this exploration, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more ancient mysteries like this one. Until next time, keep your mind open.